Hey guys, Julian Lello here, Melbourne-based fashion photographer, and in today's video I'm going to take you through a Lightroom edit from start to finish of an image from a recent swimwear shoot that I did. Now when I say edit from start to finish, I'm talking about starting with all the basic corrections and getting the general color grade right, and then moving into all the skin work, where I'll show you the clone healing tool, the brush tool, and the new layers feature with the 2022 Lightroom update. Now before we jump straight into the edit, I know it's been a minute since I have uploaded a video, but I do plan on getting back into it and making them a little bit more regular. Thank you to everyone who's hung around and clicked on this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit like and subscribe, and let's get into this edit. So the image that we're going to be working with here today is this image of model Caitlin. Now this is quite a tight crop for a swimwear shot, but the process that we're going to go through today can be used for a full body image as well. I've just selected this image because it is probably going to be a little bit faster for the process of the video, but all the skin work that I can do and all the basic corrections and balancing out the image, which I'm going to get to straight away, can be used for any full body or full length image. So jumping straight into it, I'm going to start by cropping the image. Now I'm going to use the 4:5 ratio and press X on the keyboard, which flips it for that traditional kind of Instagram crop. And we want to come in quite tight here. Now, being a swimwear shot for a brand, we want to make sure that we keep most of the bikini top in the image. I'm going to come up just a little bit more. And this is the crop. Now you'll notice that because the light, it is backlit and she is sitting in front of something, the bottom half of the image is darker. So what I'm going to do before I start with the basic corrections is start with the linear gradient mask, bring it up from the bottom, and we're just going to balance this image out. So what I want to do is increase the exposure refraction, bring this up just a little more, and also increase the warmth. So right there already, if you hit enter, you can already see that we've got a much more balanced image from top to bottom. And now all the basic corrections that we go on with will affect the whole image and it'll already be nice and balanced. So first thing I like to do is just scroll down to lens corrections and see that these are both checked off, remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections. Then we can jump straight into the basic panel here. So I'm going to increase the warmth just a little. That looks pretty good there. Generally with the warmth, I go by when the skin tone starts to look really nice. Turning the tint up just a fraction. I'm going to bring the exposure down just a little bit. Contrast come up just a little bit. Now being backlit, I generally with backlit images, I do drop the highlights a bit. So I bring in a little bit more detail around these blown out parts of the image. But then I like to increase the shadows quite a bit, which starts bringing a lot of detail back into the image. Whites I'm going to leave as they are. And I like to drop the blacks just to bring some nice detail contrast into the image. Moving down, texture increase just a little bit so you see some more of that nice fine details through the hair, through the bikini top. Clarity up just a fraction. And also when I am shooting backlit, I generally bring up the dehaze a bit just so the blacks look nice and sharp. I generally don't play too much with the vibrance or saturation. I like to go straight into the color panel and work on the colors individually with those. When it comes to the turn curve, I'm really basic with that. I get the main curve and just bring up the middle a little bit, bring up the mid-tones, and that just gets a little bit more light into those shadows, into the middle blacks, I guess, and bringing out again some more detail. Now with swimwear photography, oranges and yellows are really important to get that skin color nice. I won't play with the hues, but I'll go straight down to the saturation and start with the orange and just work out where that skin tone looks really nice. Now, I think this is a really quite balanced, having brought the warmth up of the image. I think the skin color is looking already really good. So I'm not going to play with that too much. And I might just bring the yellows up just a fraction so that we really accentuate the highlights in the hair. Coming down to the luminance. With the orange, you can see that's by bringing up the luminance of orange, it's bringing out a lot of the highlights on her skin. Plus 10 looks pretty good, find that sweet spot. And now with the yellows, you can see when I play with the yellow too much, it's changing the color of the bikini top, which we don't want to do. I am just going to drop the luminance of the yellow a little bit. And the luminance basically being how bright the yellows are. So it's had a really nice effect on that backlit light that's on her hair right now. Scrolling down, sharpening, I'm just going to put just a little bit of, I don't like to go overboard, I don't like the vignetting to be noticeable, but I am just going to bring it because it does draw the eye to the center of the image a little bit more by dropping the vignette. Okay, so here's before and after. It's already looking really great. You can see it's a really well balanced image. The colors are beautiful. It's got that really nice glow. It looks like a warm summer swimwear image. So all the basic corrections are pretty much done. As you can see, a few basic tweaks have really made a massive difference to the image in total. What I'm going to do now is, this is where it gets interesting. This is also where it gets a little bit more time consuming, and we're going to jump into the skin work. So where I like to start is by using this little band-aid here, the little clone healing tool, and I just zoom in a little bit and just take out any little blemishes. Lightroom does a really great job of picking another spot. If it hasn't done the best job, like right now with this example, you can just move that to somewhere you think is a better spot. My computer is working really slow at the moment. I'm getting that little spinning wheel of death. So Photoshop is much faster at this process, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to show you everything in Lightroom. I'm not going to go into every single little detail with the skin because we'll be sitting here for a little while, but as you can see, I just like to clean up a few key areas, and you get the gist. You can spend as much time getting rid of as many little blemishes and little spots as you like. So now that we've finished cleaning up the skin, we're going to get into the skin work with the brush. So we're going to be dodging, burning. Basically what that means, it accentuates the highlights and the shadows. This will give really nice shape and tone and curves to a swimwear image. So you would have noticed maybe with the 2022 Lightroom update, when you click on masking, you get all these different layers. Much like in Photoshop, you click new layer, select the brush, and a new one will drop down. It's really good practice to label all your layers as well, so that if you need to come back to anything later on, you know which layer work is the dodging, which layer is the burning, which might be the iris enhance, and so forth. So we're going to start by just softening the skin a little bit. I like to choose the soften skin light because it's not as harsh. It doesn't flatten everything out like the general soften skin brush, but then I also tweak that a little bit later on. So what I'm going to do with this brush to start off with, I'm going to zoom in and I'm just going to make the brush a little bit bigger and tap on any areas that I think could be smoothed out just a little bit. Like I said, this is a process that can be done for the full body. Then sort of zoom out and you can see that that's now starting to look really, really good. Now I think it is a little bit too smooth. So basically soften skin light works on the texture and the clarity sliders. So I'm just going to bring texture back up a fraction and the clarity also. I don't want it to look too smooth, too fake. Okay, so now that that's done, we can name our mask. And let's create a new one. Again, we'll click brush Now we're going to be doing the dodging. Basically, dodging is lightening and works basically just on exposure. How you want to do and how you want to select the areas that you actually dodge is just go over the natural highlights of the image. If you're working with a great makeup artist, this is also made even easier because you can just follow the contours of the makeup. Generally the top of the cheeks and the jawline is always a great spot, just on the tip of the chin. If there is anywhere on an image that is blown out, there is no need to go over it. Now here we go over in all the highlights on the body. So like I said, with a full body image, you'd be doing this to the arms, the legs, the midsection, everywhere that you see highlights, and it's just going to start to make that image a little bit more dynamic. If I give you a look here, I'll turn the mask off and you can see the difference already. Off and then back on. Now you want dodging and burning to be seen, but not to look fake. So again, I feel like this is starting to make the image look a little bit too far. I guess the common term would be photoshopped, but we are using Lightroom. So I'm just going to bring the exposure back to 0.15. So if I turn the mask off now, you can see that it's had an effect, but not a huge effect. This will then be accentuated by the next. So let's put in here dodge. Okay. This will be accentuated when we burn. So we open up another brush, we click down here, burn, and I always like to go around the hairline, and then again the jawline. Now you're probably looking at this saying that looks way too fake, those lines are way too dark, and they are. Again, we're going to drop this a little bit. You can kind of follow, always put in just a little bit in the middle of the cheeks there. You follow all the lines. So there's a bit of shadow there, a bit of shadow on the outside of the shoulder, some shadow around there. Make your brush smaller. Draw in there. Okay. And then we can also go in and do eyebrows. So as an example, we turn that off and then back on. Now that looks way too much, especially where the shadows are quite wide, sort of around here, through there. So we're just going to lift up the exposure, making it nice and subtle. Hit enter to activate that. Now there's our before and there's our after. Let's rename this mask, burn. And now there's only a few little intricate details left. We're going to do some dodging on the hair, and we're also going to do the irises. So brighten up the eyes a little. So let's create another brush. Let's go back to another dodge. I like to keep the dodging of the hair and the body separate, just so that if I need to go back to anything, it is all nice and separate. And again, just go over the highlights. This is something that I think is really underutilized when editing, is attention to the hair. I feel like it just really elevates an image, and I'll show you when I turn the mask on and off, you'll really get an idea on what it's actually done. Turning that off and then back on. Like, again, let's just make it a little bit more subtle, so we'll bring down the exposure on that brush, and I think maybe a little more. Hit enter. I think that's looking pretty good. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to zoom in. We're going to create another mask. Just for the sake of time, I didn't name the hair brush. Now, iris brush works on exposure, clarity, and saturation, increasing them all a fraction. So you can color in the iris and off, on, zoom out to get a little bit of a better view on how that's actually affected it. I think they're starting to look a little bit fake. So I'm just going to bring the saturation back a little so it doesn't look fake. Exposure back a little, clarity back a little. I think that looks pretty good. Hit enter, and there's our before and our after. One other little thing you can do, another little trick for swimwear is to just, if you are shooting the swimwear and editing for a client, just bring another brush in, just go over the actual swimwear itself with a brush that's just sharpens. Maybe even bring up the highlights just a little bit, just to make the swimwear pop. So there we go, before, after. So that's it, that's how I edit my swimwear photography. I like to start by balancing out the image, whether it be from top to bottom, left to right, depending on where the light was coming from. I then go through all my basic corrections and then move on to the skin. If you got a little something out of that video, help me out with a like and subscribe. It really does help to push this video out to more people. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I will get back to everybody. And as always, thank you for pressing play.